As a performer, your body is there.
Hi, I'm Mad Kate, and you're listening to Sweat, Sexuality, Work, Extraction, Art, Theatrics. Sweat is a series of conversations about performance and performativity of the sexual and sexualized body at work, where work is broadly defined as the labor of survival, the labor of care, creativity, and capital A art. How exactly do we define our work? And how does that work entangle and circumscribe our sexual identities, our creative lives, and the way in which we provide care? How do we perform tasks, acts of care, and identities? Anchored in our always already racialized and sexualized bodies, our complex intersectionalities, these conversations are a means of relating through work to each other. I hope they contribute to dialogues which normalize sex work as work, and all work is deserving of respect, healthy conditions, and a living wage.
Donald Trump is taking a whirlwind on geopolitics. It's such an intense, mad time. So the only thing that I can stick by is getting a bunch of queers in a backstage.
This month's conversation is with Essex-raised, Berlin-based drag performer BLEACH. Creating parties, shows, and festivals, BLEACH is a central figure in the German capital's queer underground. Starting out her career in a burlesque bar in Stockholm, she entertains with a fiery mix of punking, stripping, and speeching. BLEACH is a regular host of Berlin club nights, drag shows with a loud point of view, and is a punk rock star in BLEACH and the Bumholes.
It may come back from the burlesque bar. I really enjoyed making one person uncomfortable simultaneously as you make like the other 4 or 5 people really happy and excited, and knowing that that uncomfortable person is standing next to the person that's really happy and excited, and then they have to question like, wait, people are enjoying this asshole play?
In this very moment, it is Frauenkampftag, Feminist Struggle Day, also known as International Women's Day, and many people out on the streets. The violence continues to escalate in the unprovoked U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. And only a few days ago, an elementary school in Iran was bombed once and then again after parents were told to pick up their kids from school. Described as a so-called double tap, I'm reminded of how sexist the language of war is and how it minimizes its true impact. I'm editing this wonderful conversation with my dear friend BLEACH, in which we talk about being explicit performers and why that's powerful, and how we work through the patriarchy in our own bodies. We talk about the difficult issue of payment in underground drag spaces, and we discuss BLEACH's project S5E3, which is attempting to go back to print media and DIY mailing lists to spread the word about community events, rather than relying on big corporations.
So I loved Instagram when it came out. I built 2 identities on Instagram, including BLEACH, but it was also Baby Chino when I was in Stockholm, and I figured out a lot of my queer identity posting nude, slightly homoeroticized photos on Instagram because I couldn't do that in real life, and having that space of putting it up, and then I didn't get much attention, but just having it there and you could scroll through it and be like, I'm a sexy little boy. And then eventually BLEACH snuck in, which was sort of the drag. But after several years of feeding that machine, and it changed tenfold since when it began. I remember it didn't have adverts. It was chronological. It was like a different sphere.
Yeah.
You can romanticize stuff, but like it was cute back then. It was just square photos. Like that was its thing, right? And then I noticed it's in combination with many other things, but how it started to affect how we actually do stuff, how we communicate with each other, how we organize each other, how we reach out to each other. Simple things that people would comment on what I had posted in reality, and I would feel disconnected because I didn't understand what they were talking about until I realized they were like, oh, they're looking at the thing I posted.
Yeah.
Because I'd kind of forget.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's a characterized version of me that I'm posting it, and it's just like, oh my God, I did this. And then someone comments on it in real life and you're like, wait, but I didn't see you on that Wednesday. And they were like, oh, you were looking on me at Wednesday. And then you start to reconnect the dots that you're like, it is being projected out. And sometimes that can be like affirming and nice, but most of the time it's disorientating. And then eventually, after like a lot of consideration and planning, I consciously realized Bleach, the character, who is outrightly anti-capitalist and supposed to be she's supposed to be standing on top of police cars and screaming and getting naked. How can she be on a platform that's adamantly shutting down sex workers, shutting down free speech and directing us into sort of a fascist reality? It started to make no sense at all that I would make my art in a space that is making money off advertisement. It just started to, I was like, Bleach's face can't be there anymore. If I believe in the character enough, she shouldn't be there. Then, incidentally, the reason I started trying to drag everyone with me is because I realized if you go out on your own, then you're just lost on your own and you got no one with you. And that kind of happened in May. So then I started to try build a little bit of a campaign within myself of like, how much do they control? How much have I given them? What have they got that I don't have? And that's direct contact to my audience, a way to promote things that are coming up, and communication with my friends. So I spent half the year telling people, like, give me your number.
Yeah.
Give me your email, building a mailing list. And that also sparked Spat Mag as a way of reconnecting the physical. And from that, I've sort of seen the deprogramming that happened. Before, when I was using Instagram, I would I was in Denmark. I'm like, oh, I need to take a photo and put it on Instagram to tell people I'm in Denmark.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't need to do that. And if I really want to, I can tell the friend that I know has been to Denmark and was like, hey, babe, I'm in Denmark. Where should I go?
Right.
So it changed the effort and the direction. Because instead of just being like, hey, I'm in Denmark, stick it on the internet, my brain cognitively thinks like, wait, who was that friend who went to uni in Denmark? Oh my God, I haven't spoke to them for a while. Let me look up their number and then call them. And you start to reconnect the dots that I think used to be there, but we've kind of like airbrushed them out because we're like, oh, I'm telling the world I'm in Denmark. It's done.
So one thing I was thinking is like, do you think that care is like real care is only possible on a local level?
Yeah. I mean, I think you can care across, and people have done it, but I mean, I don't want to get all biologist or whatever the freaking word is, but it's like we haven't had the internet for that long. So I think we have grown our caring abilities to being around each other closely. And I think we can share stories of affirmation and lift people up and share art that can care for people, but to do that physical stuff that's embedded inside our bodies, that's been there for a century, and the internet's been here for maybe I'm like, when's the internet come? Half a century? Like, it's new stuff.
Very new. I remember the little girl saying the information superhighway. I think that was in 91. When I first heard about social media, or the power of social media, was in the I don't even know it was social media at that time, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, the indigenous movement in Chiapas, the Zapatistas, was one of the first people's movements that was really radically using online presence, right? So I think at that time there was a feeling that, although I think it was already fairly well known that like the internet was created, for military surveillance, like the internet is like all telecommunications, a product of furthering military surveillance. So like in that regards, I don't think it's anything revolutionary, but obviously people have used it, have vehicleized it for their own purposes, to like be subversive. I mean, you see people in Gaza that are there online doing TikToks, doing Instagram Reels, etc., and galvanizing a lot of activism that way. So of course I still see the potential of those things.
But I think that still holds on. So I'm trying to feed, I have a blog, I have a website. It's not like leaving the internet 100. It's about understanding when you don't own what you're doing. And for me, the biggest thing, specifically with Instagram, which is different with the mailing list, is like, I don't have all that contact list. If they delete me, shadow ban me or whatever, they're gone forever. But like with a mailing list, I literally have this list of emails that have signed on, and say this company that I use right now to send my emails goes bust or says I'm like sending homosexual propaganda around, I can take that mailing list and go somewhere else. When I start looking at the systems that is right now, we're chatting about Instagram, but it's going to be another thing, is when they own everything. That's when I'm like, fuck you. Like the magic of the internet. I know you got to dig more, but like Vaginal Davis's website, as an example, I just found DJ Marcella's website in Amsterdam, just beautiful. Like it looks like it's stuck in time, and people write blog posts, and it's like, if you want to take the effort to actually dig and find an artist and actually like start scouring through their website, it's so much more fruitful than just this sort of like quick glaze over some videos. Yeah, I mean, like, again, I'm a little romanticizer of the past, which is always so dangerous. But what I noticed when playing with stuff from the past, like playing with records and different things, you realize technology's moving so quick that sometimes we miss a lot of the steps that were already there and just start running forward and forward and forward. And it's like, some of these cameras are just great and they don't break, and these microphones and these guitars and these records and these theories that were built around this technology, we've moved so fast forward that sometimes we miss some of the steps. So I'm not saying like get rid of all the new stuff, but like sometimes just go back and be like, wait, have we played enough on this synth? Have we played enough with these records? I don't think we can still. And I guess it's a form of like recycling and reusing and re-understanding and just going back and being like, have we really felt everything in this? Have we done everything in print media? Have we done, instead of just looking always forward and forward and forward and forward and forward?
You said something about how you first started taking pictures of yourself in kind of semi-erotic and being like, oh, look at that, like, sexy boy. I really identify with that feeling of those first years of taking selfies and just being able to be in control of what I presented. And that was very liberating, actually, and really powerful for me. And also, I think somehow of like understanding my own gender or first exploration. So like, what did you see when you were doing that? What did that mean for you when you were doing that?
I mean, I guess I had my like cute girlfriends around me, but I didn't have any queer friends or any like queer boyfriends. And I would see them on the internet, and then I would post, and then I would be reflected in that and feel like part of that, understanding that queerness of feeling like a sexy boy. Because I didn't really have that feeling before, and be like, I look cute. I guess it gave me confidence, which is intriguing, because then I like question, like, maybe it would have been more confident building to feel cute and go to the gay bar. Like, was I just sitting at home instead of like building the confidence to go to the gay bar? Or was it exactly that? Like, I built the confidence to be like, oh, I am a queer boy, I should go to this gay bar and feel comfortable there. And I think I wore like a chunky heel to the bar first, but like I bought my first like stripper heel online and posted a photo before I wore it at a show. So I think it's like a stepping stone kind of feeling. But I think, yeah, it was powerful. It was nice.
So you have this BB show?
The BB show.
The BB
show. The Bleach and Baby Chino on one stage for one night only.
Yes. This is kind of a story of your like coming out, coming into queerness, your gender story. I don't know, that's how I took it. Do you see it that way?
It's a show that I ran every time on my birthday, and the idea was Bleach, the character, is a aggressive, possibly alcoholic, screaming blonde drag queen who is so angry at the world that she eventually dies and resurrects as a naked boy nymph from the sky, Baby Chino. That's like the framework, and then I use that framework to talk about my life.
I wanted to know a little about who is Bleach and who are these other personas you have, if you want to talk about them.
It all started I went to art college for 1 year in Stockholm, and then I made Baby Chino as a sort of outlet for art, which was again, like bounced off Instagram, and it was this naked boy who had everything was pink and they didn't speak. It was supposed to be a joke on sort of like a Jesus-esque white twink kind of like come save the world with some breathing exercises, did some yoga. It was supposed to be self-referential, bit of tongue-in-cheek. It's like a John Lennon kind of thing. And that was my first character, and I felt so much joy in that. And I did really fun, weird exhibitions of like dripping pink plaster downstairs. Well, there was a video of me like dancing with a boner. It's called like Happy Dancing Boner, and using sort of like homoerotic signaling and sexual stuff, but in a very naive and uplifting, colourful way. And I made pink bananas, and then I put the pink bananas in my ass, and then I had like a pile of pink bananas at the exhibition, and it was supposed to be like, had all the pink bananas gone in her ass? It was a boy. They didn't let me into uni with that, I think. I applied to lots of unis, they didn't let me in, which sort of like gave me a little bit of a I was like, fuck you. And then I started working at a burlesque bar because I'm a chef, and like I got a job in this burlesque bar, and I'd been building this character of Bleach up because I was fascinated by drag queens. And then at this burlesque bar, they were like, everyone who works here performs here too, if there's anything you'd like to perform with. And I performed with Baby Chino a few times doing sort of like boylesque. And then eventually one night I was like, if you give me some rollers and some red lipstick, I'll give you Marilyn Monroe. And then I did Marilyn Monroe, and then Bleach was born. And this was like more exciting because Bleach had a voice. So Baby Chino was very like a quiet, it was a visual character. But Bleach had a voice and started talking, and then I would talk to people at the bar and sit at the bar and swing the kitchen door open and be like, your food is ready, darling! And just like, and then like at the end of the night walk around like, did you enjoy the food? I cooked it! And it was an exaggerated British version of a bit of a Patsy Stone, but with this sort of like cabaret, with a cocktail in her hand. And then that was my second character. And both these characters, I mean, Baby Chino less, was, I guess, an important develop for me to understand parts of me. Bleach can be incredibly aggressive, but in a healthy way, I find. Sort of punking, screaming, letting a lot of energy out kind of way. An aggression that's inside of me that I don't really like. Like, I was brought up around I have three brothers, and my dad's a crazy British man who I love, but was very aggressive. So when I was younger, I was very quiet. I'd see all this like fucking mental people, and I'm like, people think I'm mental, but wait till you see my family, like they're on another level. So I think I used Bleach, who was a feminized version of me, to let out parts of me that I didn't really fully understand or comprehend. But over time, I've understood that the stage is a really nice space to tap into certain energies that I don't want to carry around with me every day. So then the stage and Bleach became a place to be fucking angry and just be angry at the world and scream and let it out and use that as a powerful tool instead of a negative thing that I was sort of trapped with. So she's progressed in several ways, and thankfully, I guess we're growing a little bit older. I don't feel as angry as much more. I hope that she's sort of like translated a little bit more like hopeful. And ironically, sort of like Baby Chino has slowly leaked into Bleach. Like Bleach has just become like a weird preacher lady trying to like she's adopted a little bit of the breathe in, breathe out mentality that Baby Chino was always supposed to have. But they were I guess it's the classic devil and angel on your shoulder kind of dynamic. And that was kind of the idea of the BB show, that Bleach would die and then the angel would come. And I guess that's a little bit of a theory as well, that like, where do you want to be when you're older? And it's kind of like, I would love to be naked in the forest doing yoga, just like fucking chilling. Like, that'd be a great goal for me. Do some gardening and stuff. And I guess those characters have interchanged. And then, I don't know, there's someone who obviously stands behind that and makes all that. And I kind of enjoy just letting bleach exist, and like she just takes over. So then I don't have to think about the person behind that. And then obviously the person behind that has to do my taxes and get paid and deal with interactions and stuff. And I kind of just enjoy presenting bleach as a fully rounded existence that just goes out and does stuff and says things. But yeah, the person behind that is me. I don't know if everyone feels that. I still feel like a 13-year-old kid from Essex that's just like, what's going on? And then I keep growing older, and it's like, no, you're actually like you're a human. And I think there's a little bit of cognitive difference where I can see bleach, but sometimes I can't see myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's part of life, isn't it? Or something. It's a bit hard to see yourself sometimes.
Sure.
The only time so I was doing a lot of photography before, and I was old Baldwin, and I'd sign everything old Baldwin. I photographed for 10 years. I was really proud once because every single one of my friends had my photos on their Tinder account. So it was like my open exhibition was just sort of spread through Tinder. And I did some exhibitions and stuff, but I noticed a lot that when you're like behind the lens, you're always like, you're out of the scene of what you're photographing. And there was a conscious decision to put the camera down and be like, now you're gonna photograph me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a fucking drag queen. The attention is over here now. And I guess that was another moment where the person behind the camera sort of like weaned off. And now that person just exists in private form at dinner tables and around friends. And I think that's kind of nice. I think maybe I'm quite private, which is ironic for a person who's like naked with my asshole out.
Although I think that's a classic trope.
Yeah, right?
I mean, I'm also an explicit performer, so I feel like I'm trying to understand what it's all about. But like, what is being naked and showing your asshole and putting lipstick, around your asshole? What's that all about? And sticking smoky. What did you put?
A flare up my bum. Amazing.
What's that all about?
I mean, there's many layers. One of them's the classic, like, if you don't see it and you want to see it, so then you have to do it. I think there's something that I want a fucking raunchy ass drag queen that's just like awful. And when I think of like Heclina, I hear stories about Heclina used to like rim people on stage. This just sounds so like bombastic. And then I'm like, I'm gonna have to, can we get some rimming going on around here, please? Like, what are we? We're supposed to be like the queers. So there's that level, and then there's the level of like, I just enjoy people's faces when they're completely, maybe their mind is blown, or maybe they're disgusted, or maybe they're turned on, or sometimes they're like pissed off, like you, like, how dare you like interact with my eyes on this level. And it may come back from the burlesque bar I really enjoyed. It was a Swedish audience just going out for like a cocktail in a burlesque bar, and I would go and just aggressively strip, and their faces would be gobsmacked. And the drunk people would be singing along to Robbie Williams. It'd be like this sort of weird feeling of like, which I enjoy a lot, is making one person uncomfortable simultaneously as you make like the other 4 or 5 people really happy and excited. And knowing that that uncomfortable person is standing next to the person that's really happy and excited. And then they have to question like, wait, people are enjoying this asshole play, and I feel really bad about this asshole play, but they're all loving it. And then like this sort of like interchange of like, wait, am I in the wrong? Like, am I supposed to applaud, or am I pissed off? And just, there's an energy on stage that I love when that happens. And for me, it's so easy. It's like the easiest trick in the book. It's like so simple. Take your clothes off. And for some people, somehow psychologically, it's so hard. It's like, even sometimes you're so brave, and you're like, well, you're all naked as well. Like, how have you got to this point in your brain? It came from back in art school with this happy dancing boner and stuff. I was intrigued by like embarrassment as a technique. It's silly and childish, but I always felt like I had a small penis and I was embarrassed by that. And then like to own that was to sort of just be like, hey, here's my dick, like deal with it. And then understanding embarrassment as a technique So there was a series of just sort of like I pissed myself. I was like, what's the most embarrassing thing? And then you just keep pushing, and then after you've unlocked everything, you're just like, well, it's fine. Like
Totally. I can so relate to that. Yeah, like when you get to the most shameful thing that's ever happened, you kind of break through, for sure. What's the most shameful thing that's ever happened to you?
I literally don't know. I mean, the funniest one, but it was I put a British flag up my ass on the Brexit, and then I pulled it out. There was shit on it, and I like flung it around. And there's a video of my face like noticing, and I'm like, oh no. And then but then it's like within a split second, I'm like, fuck it, here we go. And then, like, it's like, thankfully I haven't held shame. I mean, back in the day, I think that's maybe where it all roots from. Like, I sucked a dick in Barcelona and didn't tell anyone for like months, and just held that inside my body. Like
your first dick?
Yeah. And holding that and not telling anyone, and then being like, it's an issue. And it was so funny. I was like, oh my God, does this mean I'm bi, or does this mean I'm gay? And then after like 4 months of thinking it over, I was just like, it doesn't matter. Who cares if I'm either of those things? And then stepping on from that, and then like meeting new friends and being like, yeah, I like boys. And then no one reacts, and you're like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. And you're like, why would I hold that for 4 months?
Yeah.
And I guess from that point on, you're just like, I'm not going to hold that shit anymore. I'm going to tell everyone everything. It's more fun.
I want to take this moment to ask you, because I think it's so important to think about how we do explicit performance, and we like the shock of provocation, but then there's all this stuff spinning around people that are like non-consensually brought into different kinds of sexual acts, and around, you know, if they're feeling uncomfortable, is it because actually they're triggered, or, you know, that they're like genuinely feeling affronted and activated by sexual assault and things like this. Like what can our community say to that?
I mean, it was weird growing up with a dick. I was genuinely scared I was going to rape someone by accident. I was like reading a lot of feminist literature, and I was trying to be very sensitive, and like it was so intriguing, the weight of being like, oh my God, I might fuck this up, and like literally double stepping yourself, and you're like, oh, am I being too much now? And it was interesting coming from that space of being like overly sensitive to finding gay sex, which was actually like liberating in the sense that I'm like, oh my God, finally, like I don't think I'm gonna hurt it's gonna be fine, like being level. The power structures changed a little bit. So I actually worked a lot on trying to like stop making it threatening. And this piece, Happy Dancing Boner, was literally just like, for a while it felt like, oh shit, I've got a boner, that's bad. I was like, no, I got a boner, it's fine, it's body, like whatever, like some people react differently, like it's chill. And trying to like contextualize it more. Happy Dancing Boner, like let's contextualize it happily. And every time I've shown my asshole or like played with it, obviously I really don't know everyone's interactions, and that's the point of like, we're never going to understand our audiences, but I'm pretty sure it's never displayed in an aggressive way. It's always done with humor, naivety, silliness. It's just like so slightly absurd and out of the context of an aggressive sexual act. That I really hope it would never be perceived in that way. But yeah, I feel quite confident in the fact that it's actually detached from the sexual in such a way that it's like, it's just a provocation of like, everyone's got an arsehole. Now I sleep with all bodies and I'm very comfortable. Like I unlocked that kind of thing, and I understand I'm not raping people. We're just having sex. You know?
Yeah.
And I think being fucked in the ass does actually help that, to realize like what it is to be penetrated and what it is to like have different kinds of sex. But it is, which is what I'm like, everyone go out and get penetrated themselves, because I can't imagine that there's a load of fucking humans out here just doing the penetrating and not understanding the contextual sense of like what it is, the power play of being penetrated. And I feel very confident now, after lots of fun interactions, to feel like I'm not misplaying that power.
That's really beautiful. Like, actually, it really makes me feel emotional. Really, like, I really appreciate hearing that because I think, first of all, I don't think we talk about it enough like this. And I think growing up with a cunt and feeling very... So I did a lot of work in my early 20s because I had several experiences having non-consensual sex. And there's a lot of programming that happens with people that are born with penises around having to initiate sex and the pressure around that. It's not to excuse or push away any of the feelings I also had, but like I think there's a lot more structurally happening around the way that like our gender is developed and our sexuality. It's like we're told we have to do sexuality in a certain way. We're in the teenage ages. That's taken me years and years and years to understand. And also, deprogram for myself of being like, oh, I don't need to sit around and wait for someone to desire me and to like initiate something, which is like how I was socialized, which is fucking crazy, you know? And then to be like, oh, I wanted that, or I didn't want that. Oh, I want your desire. Oh, I don't want your desire, you know, and always be the passive receptor of those things to take that more into my hands. But it's, I mean, these things are so deeply ingrained.
It's insane. Yeah. And I feel lucky that it took me years to understand the darkroom and sexual spaces in Berlin, but after years of exposure and being around them, to be like, understand and play within them, to be like, okay, now I kind of get my thing. I think I understand my thing and how to interact with others. Because not everyone gets that. They only get it like after like a few dates and like drinking and all sorts, and these are like very tight, intimate moments. I kind of like the fact that you can play and understand your energy within those spaces.
In darkroom spaces in Berlin?
But sexual positive spaces, sex positive spaces.
Good. I'm glad. I feel the same way for the most part in those situations, even the ones that aren't like the best experience of my life, but that each thing I'm sort of understanding something new about it. I hope that those places unlock that for other people. I don't know that it's always true for everybody, but I guess that's what we were working towards, right? Yeah. Like creating those spaces that are working for more people, that are more inclusive for more people. Did you have a question you were thinking about that was like buzzing around in your brain that we haven't talked about, that you wake up with, or you're just like...
My recent one, which I've shot with you many times, is what I'm calling like the ecology of drag and performance spaces, where I've noticed just more and more we've tried to professionalize us so much that we should have free performers being paid €150 when talking about work.
Right.
That means that those people are getting kind of an okay fee. Like, it's not really great, let's be honest. Whereas with that same budget, you could have 9 people paid €50, and it means that there's 9 people buzzing in the backstage. And this is very specific to drag and maybe like just growing art forms. But I think I've noticed the importance of those spaces, and it's strange to fight for less money, but not to concentrate around the money per se, but to fight for more spaces where we interact with more people. Mm-hmm. 9 people in a backstage is such a magical form. It needs to be a big enough backstage, first of all, as well, which luckily I've found in certain spaces. But when I see 9 young queer people experimenting, trying something new, meeting each other, teaching each other makeup, a person that's visiting in from town, and like seeing this like atmosphere brew, and just it really feels like a culture that I remember, I feel, and I believe is in a long lineage of what drag specifically came from. And I'm not saying every stage should be like that, but just noticing crystal clear the difference to having 3 people backstage that possibly have to do 2 numbers because they have to fill up this time span, and how they react with each other, and how they have their costumes, and they're a little bit more in their world, and it's very like insular, and there's not this bubbling, queer, exaggerated, messy like beauty going on. And I've noticed from Corona to go from those 9 people backstages that were kind of like everywhere, it felt, but maybe I'm just romanticizing, to now we have these sort of like free performer lineups, and you got to invoice the money, and the night is just a little bit dry, and maybe the place isn't even that packed, and it feels like it's squeezing every ounce of what that magic was. I believe that if you have a real beautiful ecology of drag, eventually, if you pack the place enough with those €50 gigs and people get to move and you build something and you build an audience, and eventually maybe we get them on €150 each and they get the 9 people backstage. Or maybe just some of them are visiting from town and some of them just want to try it for the first week, and there's a bunch of them in there that do it every single night for the next 3 years of their life, and they write a solo show, or they like join a band, or they do something with it, but they needed that moment to meet each other and to expand and to grow. And I really right now want to foster, and I believe in that, and I believe it's part of drag culture, which expands out to like experimental music, experimental spaces, a performative culture. But just to hold that and hold it warmly and be like, it's not bad to pay people small amounts as long as you can stand there confidently and be transparent and be very clear from the get-go what this interaction is. This gig is to piss about and be a crazy kid on a Wednesday night because we've got nothing else to do in this city. Do you want to take that gig? If you don't want to take that gig, you don't have to. Again, I reference Heclina, who did a weekly show in San Francisco, who like I listen to her podcast a lot, and she used to always be like, oh my God, we paid them $30. Can you believe it? But she made a legacy of drag that when she died, everyone filled the streets. I feel like I'm so tired of talking about money and being paid correctly when I'm like, could we not be talking about feeding each other, making space for each other, making stages for each other, making culture together? And then I believe in turn that will hopefully pay us. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think, God, I want to approach this differently, like, because I think maybe where the issue is that there's too much onus being put on the drag community itself, especially around the promoters or people that are putting on the party. This is a really good conversation, I think, to dig into, because it's so important. And for sure, there's more magic when the room isn't just 3 people, when there's a lot of different shows to bounce off of. In a way, when there's more chaos too, it's gorgeous, right? But I think there is a lot of responsibility being placed somehow in what the party can bring in, which then depends on the clientele. And many of the clientele are people without a lot of money, for the most part, right? Our drag clientele are each other a lot of times. And most of us don't have a lot of money to pay for our shows. And even if you filled the venue and you just divided up the money, you'd kind of have that much. But I feel like it's not really getting at the bigger structures, which is like the rent that is being paid on for the venue itself, the Vattenfall, like the amount, the electricity, like the amount that is being taken for the equipment that's available there. And I think structurally speaking, a lot of times the labor is the thing that is always put last as far as where you can put payment. And I do feel like that is problematic. And I don't mean it to be like, oh, it's a problem with the promoters, or like you're doing a bad job doing your party, or any particular person. I just think it's a larger problem. Well, because people burn out. Yeah. Because like I feel like what I see is that actually people really aren't having friends helping them pay the rent. I don't know, but I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing that like people, unless they have safety nets from their family, they're not actually having help pay the rent. And they're stressed.
And maybe now I'm just like a crazy ass bitch. But like when I look at the heritage of drag, nobody's making money off drag. And I think we've been sold a lie that you will make money off drag via RuPaul's Drag Race and everything. And what I think drag actually becomes is like, if you've got that day job, or you're hustling in any other direction, that Wednesday night that you get to hang out with 9 random people in a similar ilk of you and get drinks and just have a night off, I believe is the fuel for life for you to continue your usual hustle. Love it or hate it, it's pushed into the shadows. But because it's pushed into the shadows, we've formed so much magic in the dark. And I think we've been told a capitalist lie that now we should be making money off this Wednesday night with a bunch of people in the back. That space needs to exist. And then we should have legitimate ways to make money and like come out of the dark simultaneously.
I hear you that when folks are doing shows where they're suddenly thinking, I need to be paid this amount because it's about worth, it is part of a capitalist lie, because like that's the game that we're playing. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's like, I have to pay my rent. I have to pay this much for food. Food has gone up, this, and this. Vattenfall has come after me because they say I owe 2,000 euros and I actually don't have anybody to help me pay that. And I need that. But I think also the capitalist lie is we have to have a day job, or a day job that doesn't bring us joy, that is not a place that we can release our creative freedom, is not a place that actually feels good. And that's just also part of what it is that we must do, you know, in order to survive. I think this is also part of a big lie that, like, I feel like many performers actually really want to escape. Like, they don't want to have the day job. I do think that there's like a certain number of years that you can actually do both. At some point, it is like, I don't have the capacity to be like, for example, a parent and have a day job and have a night job. Like, I can't do it, you know, or there's other things too, or I have a disability and I'm just totally burnt out, or I can't do these things and I have to choose, and I want my work to feel always that space where I can be as creative as possible and giving and loving and all of that. And so that is the idea that like we have to compromise, is also this lie that we've bought into, but in fact that like it's not possible to survive, right? So because we don't have artistic funding, which we could discuss that as well, if that's like really the thing. And because we don't have a universal basic income, which would be really nice. Like then we could, if we're not always doing drag at night, we could at least put our energy wherever else we wanted to, just like volunteering, doing care work, all these things. I mean, some people that I think are doing meaningful day jobs, let's say meaningful day job is like being a teacher, right? Actually, if they get discovered for doing drag or doing other kinds of like night work, it can put their job at risk. Is it better that, you know, their day job is looking on Facebook and being part of the cog in the machine that says, oh, this is violent, oh, this is over-sexual? You know, people I know that have worked doing those jobs, or in the telecenter or whatever it is, like these just horrible, like soul-sucking jobs. And of course, yeah, maybe they do also generate like drag shows, which are ironic and funny and great and like commentary on that. But wouldn't it be more revolutionary to like say no to those jobs altogether, to not have those jobs, to like reprioritize altogether? Even the idea that we have to make loads of money, you know?
I think this is like the system that they like laid out for, that we always will be fighting for the scraps, how somehow we're literally living with billionaires and now we're discussing €50 to €150. I think it's actually...
Totally.
It's complete bullshit how fucked up and twisted this world is, that we'd even like sit and discuss this, because we should just have spaces to do stuff. But it's the reality. And I think, I guess it's just, I'm just like, don't want to give up on that aspect of drag and nightlife culture. And I don't think people are, but I think maybe it's just when I turned up to the city, I did solly gigs and squat gigs and these weird things, and I found a community and I found my identity and I found everything. So I have this strong feeling that I really don't want this culture to get lost. Yeah. Of 9 people in a backstage.
Yeah. You mean by over-professionalizing?
Yeah. Because I found my love, I found Nancy, I found everything in that.
Yeah.
And the older I'm getting, I'm seeing that it's like slowly deteriorating. I think we have to still fight for those spaces.
Totally.
As a small fight that would hopefully fuel us for the bigger fight that is to genuinely try to collapse this system that is completely and utterly adamant on squeezing us and pinning us against each other.
I agree, but I feel like if we fall into the idea that fighting for 150, which is like pennies in comparison to the salaries that people are making, and we believe that like by us struggling for that, we're at risk of destroying our own community, that's really dangerous, because like we don't want to destroy our own community. And at the same time, like we still have to believe that our struggle for like having a little bit more of a basic income is also legitimate and real, you know?
I think that's the important thing. I think it's just like, I don't want that cheap gigs to be extinguished. Simultaneously, we should be fighting for more paid gigs. Like my fee's $300 to try and get me out and about. But that, but I'm like, that's because I did it for 10 years and I got the confidence from these small gigs.
Yeah.
We need to have both, and to sometimes romanticize the fact that those spaces are important and integral for people to grow, for people to meet each other, and for people to learn themselves.
They absolutely are. And why? And why?
But
why the fuck? Why is a venue able to shell out thousands for like a sound system, or like there's certain kinds of things that get prioritized? Why is Beyonce making this amount of money? Like what is with the pooling of so much wealth in certain spaces? Like why, when you talk to someone that works at some kind of corporation, why are they earning $100,000 a year and they have 4 different types of milk in their office to choose from for their coffee and these beautiful machines? Why is there so much wealth inequality? You know, like this, we walk around really like this is just totally okay.
And it's not, but it's built into the system. And my biggest one is we walk past homeless people every single day and we don't bat an eyelash. It's not normal to walk past someone suffering so deeply and we just continue because it's too hard to face. We try to deal with the fact that something bad is happening somewhere else in another country because we don't see it. We're like, oh, it's on the telephone, it's in the news, it's not connected. But we're genuinely walking past people every single day. And that should have somehow ripped up some empathy in a whole nation of people. But the homelessness is everywhere and growing, and will continue to grow as there's billionaires making ridiculous amounts of money and there's nothing at the bottom, which hopefully will ignite a revolution in the people, because it's clear and adamant that the capitalist system is completely and utterly corrupt and crumbling and is being exaggerated more and more. Donald Trump is taking a whirlwind on geopolitics. It's such an intense, mad time that it's slightly hard to comprehend. So the only thing that I can stick by is getting a bunch of queers in a backstage. Like, it's the only like clear. It's like nothing is clear, nothing is certain, everything is a mess. There is no answer to all of this. The only thing I think I know right now is getting people in a bar. Unfortunately, right now it's in a bar, but maybe one day it's in a little cultural centre or a garden. But getting people in a room, making them laugh, making them dance, making them feel that life is worth this weird torture that they're just sort of pushing onto us, of stretching ourselves for bills or wherever it is. Just knowing that you could have a good time somehow lifts this all, and you're just like, oh yeah, we're just living.
Yeah, what's the role of an artist now in this time of war, genocide, structural violence, poverty, deportations, ICE killings, Frontex? What's the role of the artist?
I think it's to remind people what they're fighting for, because I think there's a possibility that you forget what hope feels like, and you forget what good times feel like, and you fall just in constant despair. And giving people a good time, even though it seems so simple, can give people the strength to understand what they're fighting for. And I think there's obviously different art, but as a drag queen, reminding people of a good time, the strength in our history that has got us to this point. I'm a sucker for bringing up the power of what us queers have done and imagining us in the back bars, imagining us being arrested for wearing a different item of clothing, imagining those queens sneaking in the back and putting their makeup on and then lip syncing and lifting a room of people that were having their friends die around them. Just knowing that we've been here before and we have lifted each other up and we have that heritage behind us. I believe in like getting to that feeling of good time, that ease and that ooze of just like, I'm having fun, I'm out, I'm with people that I enjoy. And once you get people to that feeling, remind them of their strength, remind them of their history, and remind them that we are going to go out and fight for this good time. But then genuinely, like, as separate from that, it's real simple stuff like we need to start feeding each other and we need to start learning how to house each other. And once we take these two elements out of the sphere of control, then we actually have independence. Always comes back down to the fact that we need to learn how to feed each other, to grow our own food and interact with food culture again. We are so distant from food. It is plasticked in bags. Our food systems are shipping food from all over the world. We are completely disconnected from actually what is life. Like, we just breathe and we eat, and that can be the specific thing that we put in our mouths, but it's also the way that we do it. And since Corona and working in kitchens and seeing how delivery, again, multinational corporations are ciphering off another industry, it's actually very empowering to feed each other, to sit down and eat with each other and reignite that culture. And that is really where it's at.
You just heard from punk rock drag queen, preacher, and hostess Bleach. You can read more about her in the show notes.
I didn't even do that much of a silly voice in the end. I thought I was going to be Bleach. Come on. There'll be no revolution without sexual revolution. There'll be no sexual revolution without homosexual revolution. What I normally sound like, you know, just got a little twang, a little woo-woo. Good time. Let's have a good time.
I'm Mad Kate, and you've been listening to Sweat, Sexuality, Work, Extraction, Art, Theatrics. Sweat is a series of conversations about performance and performativity of the sexual and sexualized body in work. The theme music was composed by me and features the voice of performer and actress Lori Baldwin. Sweat airs first every second Tuesday of the month at 13 hours Central European Time on Collaboratio. Sweat is a labor of love. Your support would be greatly appreciated through my Patreon page. Thanks so much. Until next time.